I stood frozen in Tyler's bedroom, silver and blue superhero streamers dangling from my trembling hands as my mother's voice cut through the phone like a blade. "The party's canceled, Justin. Amanda says her kids feel left out every time we celebrate Tyler, and she's right. Family harmony matters more than one child's special day." The decorations I'd spent hours hanging suddenly felt like mockery. Behind Tyler's partially open door, I heard his excited humming stop abruptly. My 11-year-old son had been counting down to his birthday for months, planning every detail with the pure joy only children possess. Now my own mother was ripping that happiness away to appease my manipulative sister. 27 years of watching Amanda get her way crashed down on me in that moment, but this time she'd crossed a line I couldn't forgive. I drove to my mother's house that evening with my jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might crack. The suburban street where I'd grown up looked exactly the same, lined with modest ranch homes and manicured lawns, but everything felt different now. Patricia's porch light cast harsh shadows across her familiar doorway as I knocked harder than necessary. "You can't just cancel his birthday, Mom," I said, the moment she opened the door. Her gray hair was perfectly styled as always, her floral blouse pressed and proper, but her eyes held a coldness I'd never seen before. "Come inside, Justin. We need to discuss your attitude." She turned and walked toward the living room where family photos lined the mantelpiece. Every single one featured Amanda prominently, while pictures of Tyler and me were relegated to the corners. "My attitude: Tyler's been looking forward to this party for 3 months. He's invited his entire class. The cake is ordered, everything's ready." Patricia settled into her recliner, the same one she'd occupied during countless family discussions where Amanda always emerged victorious. "Amanda came to me last week with very valid concerns. She says you spoil Tyler deliberately to make her look like an inadequate mother. The accusation hit me like a physical blow. That's insane. I celebrate my son because he deserves it. How does that make Amanda look bad?" She showed me examples, Justin. Tyler's science fair project had professional poster boards while Brandon had to use cardboard. Tyler gets name-brand clothes while her children wear hand-me-downs. Tyler's birthday parties cost more than Amanda spends on Christmas for both her kids. Each word felt like another nail in a coffin I hadn't realized was being built around me. "I work overtime to provide for my son. Amanda and Derek have 2 incomes. If she wants to do more for her kids, that's her choice." The front door opened and Amanda walked in without knocking, her blonde hair swept into a messy bun that somehow looked effortlessly perfect. Brandon and Chloe trailed behind her, their faces unusually serious for children their age. "Perfect timing," Patricia said. "Amanda, tell Justin what you told me about the children's feelings." Amanda sat on the couch and pulled her kids close, a picture of maternal protection. "It's hard for me to say this, but Tyler's celebrations always overshadow everything else. At Easter, he got a new bike, while Brandon and Chloe got chocolate eggs. At Christmas, his pile of presents made theirs look pathetic. Because I'm his father and I choose to give him nice things." "Tell your uncle how Tyler's parties make you feel," Amanda prompted, stroking Chloe's hair. 7-year-old Chloe looked up with rehearsed sadness. "We feel left out. Tyler gets everything special and we just watch." 9-year-old Brandon nodded gravely. "Sometimes I wish I didn't have to come to family stuff because Tyler always gets more attention." The words sounded hollow, practiced, but Patricia's face softened with sympathy. "You see, Justin? Your need to overcompensate for the divorce is hurting these innocent children. Overcompensate: Tyler lost his mother when Karen and I split up. I'm not overcompensating. I'm being a good father." Amanda's voice took on a wounded tone. "Everyone talks about how wonderful you are as a single dad, how you manage everything so perfectly. Do you know how that makes me feel when I'm struggling with 2 kids and Derek working double shifts?" The manipulation was so smooth, so expertly crafted that I almost missed it. Almost. "So Tyler should suffer because you feel inadequate," He's not suffering, Patricia snapped. He's learning that family comes first, that his happiness isn't more important than everyone else's. Actually, it is more important to me. He's my son. Amanda pulled out her phone. I've been documenting the impact this has on Brandon and Chloe. Would you like to hear what they said after Tyler's last birthday? She played an audio recording of Chloe crying. Why can't we have parties like Tyler? Why doesn't anyone care about us like Uncle Justin cares about Tyler? My heart sank. But something about the recording felt wrong. The background noise, the timing, the way Chloe's words were so perfectly articulated for a 7-year-old. When was this recorded? Amanda's eyes flickered. Does it matter? The point is your selfishness is documented? That's when I realized the true scope of what I was facing. This wasn't a spontaneous complaint. This was a calculated campaign designed to isolate me and Tyler from our family support system. I've already called Robert and Sarah, Patricia announced. They agree that canceling Tyler's party sends the right message about family unity. Everyone's on the same page except you. The room spun slightly. My own relatives had been turned against me without even hearing my side. Amanda sat there looking victorious, her children pressed against her like props in her performance. Tyler doesn't know yet, I said quietly. You'll tell him tomorrow. Explain that sometimes we sacrifice for family. Patricia's tone brooked no argument. As I drove home, my hands shook on the steering wheel. Tyler was waiting in the kitchen, his homework spread across the table, completely unaware that his world was about to crumble. The superhero decorations in his room suddenly seemed like evidence of my guilt rather than expressions of love. But something Amanda said kept echoing in my mind. She'd mentioned documenting the children's reactions. What else had she been documenting, and why did those recordings sound so perfectly timed? I woke up the next morning to my phone ringing at 6:30. Tyler was still asleep, probably dreaming about his birthday party. That would never happen. Justin, it's Aunt Sarah. I need to talk to you about this situation with Tyler's party. My stomach dropped. Sarah let me explain what really happened. Honey, your mother told me everything. I know you're hurting from the divorce, but putting that pressure on the other children isn't fair. Brandon and Chloe deserve to feel special too. They do feel special. I buy them Christmas presents, I attend their school events, I've never treated them differently. But you have to admit Tyler gets more attention. Amanda showed me the pictures from his last birthday. The decorations alone probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The conversation lasted 20 minutes with Sarah, gently but firmly explaining why I needed to step back from creating competition between the cousins. By the time I hung up, I felt like I'd been hollowed out with a spoon. Uncle Robert called at 7:15. Son, I raised 4 kids, and I know how easy it is to overindulge when you're feeling guilty. But Amanda's children are watching you give Tyler everything while they get the basics. Robert, I work 60-hour weeks to afford those things for Tyler. Amanda and Derek could do the same for their kids if they prioritized it. That's not the point. Family harmony requires everyone making sacrifices. Your mother's right to put her foot down. At 8:30, as Tyler ate his cereal and chattered about his upcoming party, my phone rang again. Mrs. Henderson, Tyler's teacher. Mr. Garrett, I received a concerning call from Tyler's aunt yesterday. She mentioned some family dynamics that might be affecting his behavior at school. My blood went cold. What kind of behavior? Amanda suggested that Tyler might be developing superiority issues because of excessive praise at home. She asked me to watch for signs of him looking down on classmates who don't have the same advantages. Tyler doesn't have superiority issues. He's one of the kindest kids in his class. That's what I told her. But she seemed very concerned about psychological damage from what she called unhealthy competitive dynamics in the family. After hanging up, I sat staring at my coffee as Tyler gathered his backpack for school. Amanda had contacted his teacher. She was building a case, creating a narrative that painted me as a damaging influence on my own son. At noon, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in months. My ex-wife, Karen. Justin, I got the strangest call from Amanda yesterday. She said there were concerns about Tyler's emotional development. What exactly did she tell you? She said you've been using Tyler to hurt me somehow. That you throw elaborate celebrations to prove you're a better parent than I was. She made it sound like you're damaging him psychologically. Karen, you know that's not true. You've seen how happy and well-adjusted Tyler is. I know that's why I'm calling. It didn't make sense. But she sounded so concerned, and she mentioned other family members were worried too. She's manipulating everyone. She got Tyler's birthday party canceled because her kids supposedly feel jealous. There was silence on Karen's end. She canceled his birthday. Justin Tyler's been talking about this party for months. He called me last week to make sure I knew what time to pick him up. Wait, you were planning to attend? Of course I was. It's his birthday. Amanda specifically invited me, said she wanted Tyler to have both parents there despite our differences. The pieces started clicking together. Amanda had invited Karen, probably planning to use her presence to create more drama or gather more ammunition for her campaign. At 3 o'clock, Tyler came home from school quieter than usual. He sat at the kitchen table instead of running to his room to play. Dad Brandon told me at recess that my party might not happen. My heart shattered. Buddy, we need to talk about that. Did I do something wrong? Brandon said I made Chloe cry because she can't have parties like mine. You didn't do anything wrong. This is about grown-up problems. But if Chloe's sad, maybe we could share my party. She could help blow out the candles. The pure generosity of his offer made me want to scream. Here was my son, willing to share his special day because he'd been made to feel guilty for being loved. That evening, I decided to investigate Amanda's claims more thoroughly. I called my ex-mother-in-law, Tyler's maternal grandmother. Oh, Justin, I'm so glad you called. I got the most disturbing message from Amanda. She said you were using Tyler's celebrations to somehow hurt Karen and that we should be concerned about psychological manipulation. Joyce, you've spent time with Tyler recently. Does he seem manipulated or damaged to you? That's exactly what I told my husband. Tyler's the most emotionally healthy child I know. But Amanda sounded so official, like she'd consulted professionals. What exactly did she say? She mentioned recordings of the children expressing distress. She said family therapists recommend limiting celebrations for children of divorce because they can develop unrealistic expectations. More recordings, more professional terminology. Amanda was building a comprehensive false narrative with manufactured evidence and expert-sounding advice. At 9 p.m. while Tyler slept, I made one more call. Marcus, my best friend since college, who'd moved to Arizona but stayed in touch. Marcus, I need to ask you something as someone who's known me for 15 years. Do I spoil Tyler? Spoil him, dude. You're the most intentional father I know. Every decision you make is about his well-being. My family thinks I'm overcompensating for the divorce by giving him too much attention. Your family thinks you're overcompensating. The same family that forgot your birthday last year, but threw Amanda a surprise party for her promotion. His words hit like a revelation. The favoritism toward Amanda wasn't new. I'd just been too close to see it clearly. Marcus, they canceled Tyler's birthday party. They say it makes Amanda's kids feel bad. They what, Justin? That's not family dynamics, that's emotional abuse. You're being scapegoated. As I lay in bed that night, listening to Tyler's peaceful breathing through the baby monitor I still kept in his room, I realized I wasn't dealing with a family disagreement. I was dealing with systematic manipulation designed to isolate me and Tyler from our support network. Amanda had spent months, maybe years, building this narrative. The recordings, the teacher contact, the relative conversations, the professional terminology. She'd created a web of false evidence so comprehensive that everyone believed her version of events. But why? What did she gain from destroying Tyler's happiness and my relationship with the family? The answer came to me at 3 a.m. sudden and clear. Amanda didn't want Tyler to be happy because his happiness highlighted everything wrong with her own children's lives. Instead of improving their situation, she'd decided to tear down ours. The family meeting was scheduled for Saturday afternoon at Patricia's house. I'd spent 3 sleepless nights preparing for what I now understood would be an ambush, but nothing could have prepared me for the coordination of the attack. Everyone was already there when Tyler and I arrived. Patricia sat in her usual chair, but the rest of the seating had been arranged like a courtroom. Amanda and her husband Derek occupied the couch with Brandon and Chloe flanking them. Uncle Robert sat in the armchair by the window, Aunt Sarah perched on the ottoman beside him. The only empty seats were two folding chairs facing the assembly clearly designated for Tyler and me. "Sit down, both of you," Patricia commanded without preamble. Tyler's hand found mine as we took our assigned places. At 11 years old, he was old enough to sense the hostility in the room, but young enough to not understand why. "We're here to address the dysfunction that's been building in this family." Amanda began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. "Justin, your behavior has created an unhealthy dynamic that's hurting everyone, especially the children." She opened a folder thick with papers. "I've been documenting incidents for the past year. Tyler's science fair project cost over $300, while Brandon had to use materials from our recycling bin. Tyler's Halloween costume was custom made, while Chloe wore a hand-me-down from her friend. At Christmas, Tyler received gifts worth over $800, while Brandon and Chloe shared $400 between them. I'm Tyler's father. I provide for him according to my means. But you don't consider how your choices affect others. Brandon, tell everyone how you felt at Tyler's last birthday party." Brandon, who'd always adored Tyler, looked uncomfortable. "I felt sad that Tyler got so many presents." "And why did you feel sad?" "Because Mom said it meant Tyler's family loves him more than ours loves us." The coached nature of his response was obvious to me, but the adults nodded sympathetically. Amanda continued pulling papers from her folder. "I have recordings of both children expressing distress after family gatherings. Chloe, play the audio message you left on my phone after Easter." A small digital recorder crackled to life with Chloe's voice. "Mommy, why can't we have Easter egg hunts like Tyler? Why doesn't Uncle Justin buy us bikes too? Don't we deserve nice things?" Tyler's face crumpled with confusion and guilt. "I didn't know they felt bad. I would share my bike." "That's exactly the problem." Derek spoke for the first time, his voice unusually stern. "Tyler's been raised to think his happiness matters more than everyone else's. He offers to share now, but only after the damage is done." I stared at Derek, Amanda's usually quiet husband, who worked construction and rarely involved himself in family drama. His sudden articulation and psychological terminology felt wrong. "Uncle Robert," Amanda continued, "tell Justin what you observed at Thanksgiving." Robert cleared his throat. Tyler dominated the conversation, talking about his achievements and activities, while Brandon and Chloe barely spoke. It was clear he'd been taught that his accomplishments were more important. "Because I encourage him to share his interests with family. That's what good parents do." "Good parents also teach humility," Sarah added. "Good parents don't let their children overshadow others." Amanda pulled out her phone. "I want everyone to hear something Tyler said last month that really concerns me." Another recording played Tyler's voice, clear and confident. "I'm the luckiest kid in the world because my dad makes everything special for me. Some kids don't have dads who care as much." The room fell silent. To me, it sounded like a child expressing gratitude for being loved. But Amanda had framed it as evidence of superiority complex. "You see how he's been conditioned to believe he's more deserving than other children." Amanda's voice carried just the right note of professional concern. Tyler's small hand squeezed mine harder. "Dad, I didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings." "You didn't hurt anyone, buddy." "Yes, he did," Patricia said sharply. "Brandon cried after that conversation. He asked me why his daddy doesn't love him like Uncle Justin loves Tyler." I watched my 11-year-old son's face cycle through confusion, guilt, and heartbreak as the adults he trusted systematically destroyed his sense of self-worth. "This ends now," Amanda declared. New family rule: all celebrations must be equal for all children. Tyler's birthday will be celebrated with the same budget and attention as Brandon's and Chloe's birthdays. Same gift value, same decorations, same everything. And if I refuse, Patricia's expression hardened. Then you and Tyler won't be welcome at family gatherings. This family operates on unity, not individual preferences. Furthermore, Amanda added, Tyler needs to apologize to Brandon and Chloe for making them feel excluded and unloved. Tyler looked up at me with tears in his eyes. Do I have to, Dad? Apologize for being loved, never. Derek leaned forward. Justin, I've stayed quiet about this for too long. Amanda's been patient with your selfishness, but it's affecting our children's mental health. Our family therapist says Tyler's excessive celebrations could cause lasting psychological damage to Brandon and Chloe. You took them to a therapist. We had to. Chloe started having nightmares about not being good enough. Brandon asked if we could give him away like Tyler's mom did, so maybe someone would love him more. Tyler gasped audibly. I felt rage building in my chest like pressure in a volcano. Tyler's mother didn't give him away. Karen and I divorced, but we both love him. That's your perspective, Amanda said coolly. But children of divorce often overcompensate by demanding excessive attention. Tyler's learned to manipulate situations to ensure he remains the center of focus. He's 11 years old enough to learn consideration for others, old enough to understand that his happiness isn't the only priority. Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out a legal document. I've made some changes to my estate planning, Justin. I'm leaving everything to Amanda because she understands family responsibility. The final blow landed with surgical precision. My mother was disinheriting me as punishment for loving my son too much. Additionally, she continued, I'm implementing supervised visitation for your time with Tyler at family events. Amanda will monitor your interactions to ensure you're not undermining the new family structure. Tyler started crying, then quiet sobs that shook his small shoulders. I don't understand what I did wrong. I just wanted to have a birthday party. I stood up, pulling Tyler with me. We're leaving. If you walk out that door, don't come back until you're ready to apologize and comply with the new rules, Patricia called after us. As we reached the front door, I heard Amanda's voice triumphant and satisfied. This is exactly what I mean. Justin chooses conflict over family harmony every single time. In the car, Tyler curled into himself like a wounded animal. Dad, are we bad people? No, buddy, we're not bad people, but we're surrounded by some very confused adults. Will you really apologize so we can come back? I looked at my son through the rearview mirror, this beautiful, kind, innocent child who'd been systematically torn down for the crime of being loved. Tyler, sometimes protecting the people we care about means walking away from people who hurt us, even if those people are family. Are we going to walk away? I thought about the document in Patricia's purse, about Amanda's satisfied smile, about Derek's sudden psychological expertise, about my son being forced to apologize for his father's love. Yeah, buddy, I think we are. We packed that night in silence, Tyler moving between his room and the living room with the mechanical efficiency of someone in shock. I threw clothes into suitcases while my mind raced with logistics. Where could we go? How could I extract us from this toxic web without destroying Tyler's relationship with the only family he'd ever known? At midnight, with our belongings loaded into my pickup truck, I called Marcus in Arizona. Phoenix is a good place for a fresh start, he said without hesitation after I explained the situation. I've got a guest room, and the school district here is excellent. Come stay as long as you need. During the 12-hour drive across 2 states, Tyler gradually began talking. What emerged was a year of psychological torture I'd been too blind to see. Dad, Brandon, and Chloe used to tell me secrets at family parties. They said Aunt Amanda made them practice being sad about my presence. She'd show them pictures from my birthdays and ask how it made them feel. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What kind of practice? She'd make them say things like, "I wish someone loved me like Tyler's dad loves him," until it sounded real. Brandon told me he didn't actually feel bad about my bike, but Aunt Amanda said if he didn't act sad, it proved he was selfish. The highway stretched endlessly ahead desert landscape, replacing familiar California hills. Each mile felt like distance from a nightmare. There's more, Dad. At Christmas, when you gave me that remote control helicopter, Chloe whispered that she thought it was the coolest thing ever. But when the adults asked how she felt, she said it made her feel left out. Aunt Amanda hugged her and said she was brave for being honest. Why didn't you tell me this before? Tyler was quiet for several minutes watching telephone poles flick past his window. Because Grandma Patricia said families keep secrets sometimes to protect people's feelings. She said if I told you about the practice, it would hurt your feelings and make you angry at Aunt Amanda. The manipulation was even deeper than I'd realized. They'd turned my own son into a co-conspirator in his emotional abuse by framing silence as protection. Tyler keeping secrets about people hurting you isn't protecting anyone. It's protecting the people doing the hurting. I know that now. Brandon figured it out too. Last month he told me Aunt Amanda records them practicing their sad voices. She has hours of recordings of them saying different things about feeling jealous or left out. The edited audio clips made perfect sense now. Amanda hadn't captured spontaneous expressions of distress. She'd manufactured them through systematic coaching and emotional manipulation of her own children. We stopped for lunch in Flagstaff, Arizona, and Tyler ate his first full meal in days. Color was returning to his face as the distance from Patricia's house grew. "Dad, can I ask you something without you getting upset?" "Always, buddy." "Do you think Brandon and Chloe really hate me now, because they had to pretend for so long?" The question broke my heart. My 11-year-old son was worried about his cousins even after they'd been weaponized against him. "I think Brandon and Chloe love you exactly the same as they always did. I think their mom put them in an impossible situation where they had to hurt you to protect themselves." That's what I thought too, but it makes me feel sorry for them instead of mad. The emotional maturity of his response reminded me why I'd fought so hard to protect him. Despite everything, Tyler's capacity for empathy remained intact. Marcus and his wife Jenny welcomed us into their Phoenix home like refugees from a war zone, which in many ways we were. Jenny worked as a family therapist, and over dinner that first night, she helped me understand the scope of what we'd experienced. "What you're describing is systematic emotional abuse designed to isolate you from your support network," she explained. "Amanda used your family's existing dynamics against you. Your mother's favoritism toward her made everyone predisposed to believe her version of events." "But why target Tyler specifically?" "Because Tyler's happiness reflected everything Amanda felt she couldn't provide for her own children. Instead of improving their situation, she chose to destroy yours. It's a common pattern in dysfunctional family systems." Tyler thrived in Phoenix immediately. Marcus helped me find a construction job with better pay than I'd had in California, and Tyler enrolled in a school where no one knew our family history. For the first time in months, I watched my son laugh freely, without checking to see if his joy was hurting someone else. 3 weeks after our arrival, Amanda's calls began. I didn't answer the first dozen, but eventually her persistence wore me down. "Justin, this is ridiculous. You can't just disappear with Tyler. Family doesn't work that way." "Our family doesn't work at all, Amanda. That's why we left." "Everyone's upset. Patricia's been crying every day. She didn't mean what she said about the will." "Yes, she did. You all meant exactly what you said. You just didn't expect consequences." "Tyler belongs here with his family. You're being selfish." "Tyler belongs wherever he's loved without conditions, where his happiness isn't treated like a threat to other people." The conversation continued for 20 minutes, Amanda cycling through guilt, anger, and manipulation with practiced ease. But the distance and clarity had immunized me against her tactics. "I know about the coaching, Amanda. I know you made Brandon and Chloe practice being upset. I know about the manufactured recordings. Silence on her end, then. I don't know what Tyler told you, but children misinterpret things. Children don't misinterpret systematic emotional abuse. You're being dramatic. We were trying to teach Tyler consideration for others. You were trying to destroy his self-worth to make yourself feel better about your parenting choices. After I hung up, Tyler looked up from his homework at Marcus's kitchen table. Was that Aunt Amanda? Yes. Is she mad that we left? She's confused that we left. She expected us to accept being treated badly because we're family. I'm not confused, Tyler said, returning to his math problems. I'm happier here than I've been in months. That night, Jenny sat with me on the back patio while Tyler and Marcus played video games inside. He's a remarkably resilient child, she observed. Most kids would be much more damaged by what he experienced. He still asks about his cousins. He wants to send them postcards. That speaks well of his character. And yours. You protected him by removing him from a toxic environment before permanent damage was done. I keep wondering if I should have tried to fix things instead of running away. Jenny shook her head. You didn't run away. You made a strategic retreat to protect your child. There's nothing noble about staying in an abusive situation. As Tyler's confidence returned over the following weeks, he began sharing more details about the family dynamics I'd missed. The picture that emerged was of a child who'd spent a year walking on eggshells, constantly monitoring his own joy to avoid triggering other people's jealousy. Dad, remember last Christmas when I didn't want to open the big present until everyone else was done? I thought you were being polite. I was scared. Aunt Amanda kept staring at me, and I knew if I got too excited, she'd use it against you later. An 11-year-old child shouldn't know how to manage adults' emotional instability. An 11-year-old child shouldn't have to suppress his happiness to protect his father from criticism. But Tyler had been doing both for months, carrying emotional burdens that belonged to the adults around him. The revelation that shattered my remaining guilt came 6 weeks after our escape. Tyler was video chatting with a school friend when Brandon appeared in the background of the call. Tyler, I miss you so much Mom doesn't know I'm here, but I wanted to tell you something important. Tyler glanced at me for permission before focusing on his cousin. What is it, Brandon? Chloe and I never felt jealous of you. We loved your parties. We loved your presence. Mom made us say those things, but they weren't true. We're sorry we hurt your feelings. I know you didn't mean it. Mom has recordings of us practicing being sad for hours. She said if we didn't do it right, it would prove we didn't love our family. But we figured out she was lying. After the call ended, Tyler sat quietly for several minutes. Dad, I need to tell you something. I'm not sad we left anymore. I'm relieved. Me too, buddy. Me too. 3 months into our Phoenix life, Amanda's harassment campaign began in earnest. It started with social media posts that painted our departure as abandonment rather than escape. Heartbroken that some people choose pride over family bonds, read one Facebook post accompanied by a photo of Patricia looking forlorn. When family tries to address concerning behavior, walking away isn't the solution. The posts were carefully crafted to generate sympathy without revealing specifics. Amanda's friends and extended family members responded with supportive comments about family loyalty and forgiveness, creating a narrative where Tyler and I were the villains in a story they didn't understand. She created fake accounts to escalate the campaign. Anonymous messages appeared on my social media. Your son deserves better than a father who runs away from problems. Family comes first. You're teaching Tyler that love is conditional. The psychological warfare was sophisticated, but ultimately ineffective. Because we'd already found peace in our new life. Tyler's grades improved dramatically at his Phoenix school. He joined the soccer team and made genuine friendships with children who appreciated his kindness without monitoring his joy. My relationship with Lisa, a project manager at my construction company, developed naturally and healthily. She met Tyler 6 weeks after our arrival and their bond formed without the toxic dynamics that had poisoned every family interaction back home. Tyler's remarkable, Lisa told me after their first meeting. He has this quality of being completely present with people. Most kids his age are self-absorbed, but he really listens. He learned empathy the hard way, Mom, I explained. Meanwhile, Amanda's desperation grew as her tactics failed to draw us back. She contacted my former employer, spreading rumors about instability and abandonment issues. She reached out to Tyler's old school, suggesting they might want to check on his welfare. Most damaging of all, she threatened to call Child Protective Services, claiming I'd kidnapped Tyler and was alienating him from his family. Let her call, Jenny advised when I shared this latest threat. CPS investigations reveal truth, not manipulation. Tyler is thriving, you're providing excellent care, and you have documentation of the emotional abuse that prompted your departure. The breakthrough came when Karen, my ex-wife, flew to Phoenix unexpectedly. I hadn't spoken to her since the phone call where Amanda tried to turn her against me, so her appearance at our doorstep was startling. I need to see for myself how Tyler's doing, she said without preamble. Amanda's been calling me weekly with concerns about his psychological state. Tyler greeted his mother with genuine enthusiasm, showing her around our temporary home and introducing her to Marcus's family with pride. Over dinner, Karen watched our interactions with the scrutiny of someone expecting to find problems. Tyler seems incredibly happy, she admitted after he went to bed. Amanda made it sound like he was struggling emotionally. What exactly did she tell you? She said you were isolating him from his family support system, that he was becoming withdrawn and anxious. She mentioned therapy recommendations and suggested I might want to pursue custody modifications. The audacity of using Karen as another weapon in her arsenal stunned me. Did she mention why we left? She said there was a family disagreement about celebrations that you blew out of proportion. She made it sound like a minor difference of opinion that you used as an excuse to disappear. I spent 2 hours explaining the systematic manipulation, the coached recordings, the manufactured crisis around Tyler's birthday. Karen listened with growing anger as the true scope of Amanda's behavior became clear. She's been lying to me for months, Karen said finally. I almost filed for custody modification based on her concerns. She nearly destroyed Tyler's stability for the second time. She's been lying to everyone. The next morning, Karen had a long conversation with Tyler while I was at work. When I returned, she was visibly shaken. Tyler told me about the coaching sessions with Brandon and Chloe. He described months of walking on eggshells, constantly monitoring whether his happiness was hurting other people. Justin, that's not normal childhood behavior. I know. He also told me about the improvement in his sleep, his appetite, his general mood since moving here. He hasn't had a nightmare in weeks. Back home, he was having them several times a week. Karen extended her stay in Phoenix for 3 additional days, observing Tyler's new routine and meeting his teacher, his soccer coach, and his new friends. The evidence of his flourishing was undeniable. I'm going to call Amanda, she announced on her final evening. Someone needs to tell her the truth about what she's done. Karen, you don't have to get involved in this. Yes, I do. She used me as a weapon against my own son. That ends now. The phone call lasted an hour, Karen's voice carrying through the thin walls of our temporary home. I heard fragments. Tyler is thriving. You lied to me about everything. Emotional abuse is still abuse. Leave us alone. When she hung up, Karen looked exhausted but resolute. She's not going to stop Justin. She believes her own lies now. In her mind, she's the victim, and you're the villain who tore apart the family. I know, but I'm going to make sure everyone else knows the truth, starting with Patricia. The call to my mother was shorter, but more intense. Karen's fury over Amanda's manipulation of her relationship with Tyler cut through months of carefully constructed lies. Patricia, Tyler is happier and healthier than he's been in a year. If you want a relationship with your grandson, you need to understand why Justin left. Because Amanda's version of events is fiction. That evening, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen since our departure. Derek, Amanda's husband. Justin, I need to talk to you. Can we meet somewhere private? Derek, I'm in Arizona. We're not meeting anywhere. Then I need to tell you this over the phone. I'm filing for divorce. I've been documenting Amanda's behavior for months, and I can't let her continue manipulating my children. The words hit like lightning. What? The coaching sessions you mentioned, I recorded some of them. Amanda forcing Brandon and Chloe to practice being upset, teaching them to manufacture distress for her recordings. It's psychological abuse, and I won't allow it to continue. Where are the kids now? With me. I filed for emergency custody yesterday. Amanda doesn't know yet. Derek explained that he'd been uncomfortable with Amanda's campaign against Tyler and me for months, but felt powerless to intervene. The escalation after our departure had finally pushed him past his breaking point. She's been having an affair with Patricia's neighbor for 6 months, he continued. The manipulation of the family was partly to distract from her own guilt and create chaos so no one would notice her behavior. An affair with who? Tom Henderson, 3 houses down from your mother's place. She's been planning to leave me for him, but needed to establish that she was the wronged party first. Destroying your relationship with the family was part of building her victim narrative. The revelation recontextualized everything. Amanda's systematic campaign hadn't just been about jealousy over Tyler's happiness. It had been about creating a cover story for her own betrayal of her family. Derek, I'm sorry, I had no idea. Neither did I until I found the text messages, hundreds of them going back months. She told Tom that she was being emotionally abused by an unstable family member, meaning you, and needed his support to protect her children. What happens now? Now the truth comes out. I have recordings of the coaching sessions, evidence of the affair, and documentation of her manipulation tactics. Brandon and Chloe are already in therapy to undo the damage she's done to them. How are they handling everything? Better than I expected. They're relieved to stop pretending to be upset about Tyler's happiness. They want to call him if that's okay. That night, Tyler had the first honest conversation with his cousins in over a year. Brandon and Chloe apologized tearfully for their role in the deception, explaining how afraid they'd been to disobey their mother. We never stopped loving you, Tyler, Chloe said through the video call. We just didn't know how to say no to Mom without getting in trouble. I know, Tyler replied with the wisdom of someone far older than his 11 years. You were scared. I understand. After the call, Tyler looked up at me with clear eyes. Dad, I'm glad we left when we did. Why? Because if we'd stayed, Brandon and Chloe might never have been able to tell the truth. Sometimes protecting people means letting them figure things out for themselves. Amanda's world crumbled with remarkable speed once Derek's divorce filing became public knowledge. Within 48 hours, the carefully constructed narrative she'd spent months building disintegrated as evidence of her manipulation and infidelity spread through the family network. Derek arrived in Phoenix 2 weeks later with Brandon and Chloe seeking temporary refuge, while custody proceedings played out in California. Tyler's reunion with his cousins was tentative at first, marked by the awkwardness of children who'd been forced to hurt someone they loved. We practiced being mean to you, Brandon confessed on their first evening together. Mom said if we didn't do it right, she'd know we didn't really love our family. She recorded us over and over until we sounded convincing, Chloe added. She said Uncle Justin was trying to steal us away from her by making us jealous of Tyler. Tyler listened to their explanations with remarkable patience, occasionally nodding or asking clarifying questions. When they finished, he simply said, I'm sorry your mom made you do that. It must have been really hard. The generosity of his response brought both cousins to tears. For months, they'd been carrying guilt over their forced participation in Tyler's emotional abuse. His immediate forgiveness began their own healing process. Over the following days, I watched the 3 children rediscover their natural bond without adult manipulation contaminating their interactions. They played video games, built elaborate fort structures in Marcus's backyard, and talked late into the night about everything they'd been unable to discuss during the months of manufactured conflict. "Tyler's different now," Derek observed as we watched them from the kitchen window. "More confident, less careful." "He doesn't monitor his own happiness anymore," I agreed. "He doesn't check to see if his joy is hurting someone else before expressing it." Brandon and Chloe are different too. They're more relaxed, more honest. Amanda had them so worried about saying the wrong thing that they barely talked at home. The peace was shattered when Amanda arrived unannounced, having driven through the night from California. Marcus's doorbell rang at 6 in the morning, and through the front window, I saw my sister standing on the porch looking haggard and desperate. "I want my children," she announced when I opened the door. "You can't just take them from me." "I didn't take them. Their father brought them here while he files for custody. Derek's being manipulated by you. This whole situation is your fault. You poisoned everyone against me." Amanda's appearance shocked me. Her usually perfect hair was unwashed and tangled, her clothes wrinkled like she'd slept in them. The composed manipulator who'd orchestrated months of systematic abuse looked unhinged and vulnerable. "Amanda, you need to leave. The children are safe here." "Safe? They're in another state with a father who's having some kind of breakdown. This isn't safe, it's kidnapping." Derek emerged from the guest room still in pajamas but fully alert. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" "Taking my children home. This has gone far enough." "Your children don't want to go home. They've told the court-appointed psychologist that they're afraid of you." "They're afraid of me because you've been filling their heads with lies." The argument escalated quickly, Amanda's voice rising to near screaming as she demanded immediate return of Brandon and Chloe. Her desperation was palpable, but so was her inability to take responsibility for the consequences of her actions. Marcus called the police when Amanda refused to leave voluntarily. While we waited for officers to arrive, Tyler, Brandon, and Chloe huddled together in the living room, watching their adults destroy each other with accusations and counter-accusations. "This is exactly what I was trying to prevent," Amanda said as sirens approached. "You've turned my children against me. You've destroyed our family." "You destroyed our family when you decided to manipulate everyone instead of dealing with your own problems," I replied. The police intervention was brief but definitive. Amanda had no legal right to remove Brandon and Chloe from Derek's custody, especially across state lines. She was ordered to leave the property and contact her attorney to pursue resolution through proper legal channels. As the squad car pulled away with Amanda in the back seat, not under arrest but being transported to prevent further confrontation, Brandon and Chloe clung to their father with relief. "Is she going to make us go back?" Chloe asked. "Not until a judge decides what's best for you," Derek assured her. "And you'll get to tell the judge how you feel about everything." "We want to stay with you," Brandon said firmly. "And we want Tyler to stay our cousin without Mom making us pretend to be mad at him." That afternoon brought another unexpected visitor. Patricia's car pulled into Marcus's driveway, my mother looking small and uncertain behind the steering wheel. She'd driven 11 hours through the desert to reach Phoenix, a journey that seemed impossible for the woman who rarely left her neighborhood. "I need to talk to Tyler," she said when I met her at the car. "And to you. I need to understand what really happened." Tyler greeted his grandmother with cautious affection, the warmth between them damaged but not destroyed. Patricia's appearance had changed dramatically in the months since we'd left. She looked older, more fragile, uncertain in a way I'd never seen before. "Grandma, are you mad at us?" Tyler asked as she settled into Marcus's living room. "I'm mad at myself, sweetheart. I made some terrible mistakes." Over the next several hours, Patricia listened as Derek, Tyler, Brandon, and Chloe each shared their version of events. The picture that emerged was so different from Amanda's narrative that my mother wept openly. "She showed me recordings of the children being upset," Patricia said. "But she never told me she'd coached them to say those things." "She told us you wanted us to practice," Brandon explained. "She said Grandma Patricia needed to hear us be sad so she'd know we were telling the truth about our feelings." She used my name to manipulate you. She said lots of things about what you wanted, Chloe added. She said you'd be disappointed in us if we didn't help protect the family from Uncle Justin's selfishness. Patricia's face cycled through horror, anger, and grief as she realized the extent to which Amanda had manipulated not just the children, but her own authority as family matriarch. Tyler, can you ever forgive an old woman for being so foolish? Tyler considered the question seriously before answering. Grandma, I forgave you before we even left California. I was just sad that you believed I was a bad person. You were never a bad person. You were never anything but a wonderful, kind, generous boy who deserved to be celebrated. That evening, as the extended family fragments began reassembling in Marcus's living room, I realized Amanda's manipulation had inadvertently created the crisis necessary for everyone to see clearly. Her overreach in demanding the children's return despite Derek's divorce filing had forced each family member to choose sides based on evidence rather than loyalty. Uncle Robert called that night, having spoken with Patricia about her discoveries in Phoenix. Justin, I owe you and Tyler an apology. We were all manipulated, but that doesn't excuse the damage we did. Aunt Sarah's call followed an hour later. That poor boy having to carry the weight of our stupidity for months. How do we fix this? You're fixing it now, I told each of them. You're choosing truth over comfortable lies. Derek decided to relocate to Arizona, permanently seeking joint custody of Brandon and Chloe, with Amanda required to complete therapy before unsupervised visits. The children were enthusiastic about the move, having discovered they thrived in an environment free from emotional manipulation. Can Tyler be our neighbor? Brandon asked, like a real neighbor we see every day. We're working on that, Derek assured him. The final revelation came when Patricia announced she was reversing all the changes Amanda had pressured her to make to her will and family policies. I'm also doing something else, she added. I'm paying for family therapy for everyone who wants it. We all need to learn how to communicate honestly instead of letting one person control the narrative. Amanda's affair with Tom Henderson became neighborhood scandal, destroying her credibility with anyone who might have remained sympathetic to her version of events. Her meltdown at Marcus's house, witnessed by police and neighbors, further damaged her claims of being the reasonable party in the family conflict. She's agreed to intensive therapy as part of the custody agreement, Derek reported after a court hearing in California. The therapist specializes in narcissistic manipulation and family dynamics. Do you think she can change? I hope so for Brandon and Chloe's sake, but even if she does, it'll be years before I trust her with unsupervised access to the kids. As summer ended and Tyler prepared for 6th grade in Phoenix now as a permanent resident rather than a refugee, he reflected on the year that had transformed our lives. Dad, I used to think families were supposed to hurt sometimes because that's how love works. But Marcus's family doesn't hurt each other, and they love each other just as much. Sometimes people confuse love with control, I explained. Real love wants you to be happy. Fake love wants you to be what makes other people comfortable. I like real love better. Me too, buddy, me too. 1 year later, Tyler's 12th birthday party filled Marcus's backyard with genuine laughter for the first time in longer than I could remember. The guest list included faces both familiar and new: Derek, Brandon, and Chloe, now permanent Phoenix residents living 2 streets away. Patricia, who'd moved to a retirement community nearby to rebuild her relationship with Tyler. Karen, who'd flown in from California with her new partner, a gentle man who treated Tyler with natural kindness. Lisa, who'd become an integral part of our new family structure. Marcus and Jenny's children, who'd embraced Tyler as a brother. Even Uncle Robert and Aunt Sarah had made the trip from California, bringing genuine apologies and homemade gifts. The birthday celebration was everything Tyler's 11th party should have been: joyful, relaxed, and free from the undercurrent of resentment that had poisoned previous family gatherings. Tyler moved through his guests with the confidence of a child who knew his happiness was celebrated rather than monitored for its impact on others. Remember when I was afraid to get excited about presents? Tyler asked as he opened gifts at the picnic table. Now I can be happy without checking if it's okay first. Brandon and Chloe cheered enthusiastically as Tyler unwrapped a new skateboard, their excitement genuine rather than performed. The contrast with their coached responses from previous celebrations was remarkable. Tyler opened mine next, Chloe insisted, bouncing with anticipation. I picked it out myself without anyone telling me what to choose. The freedom to express authentic emotions had transformed all three children. Brandon no longer carried the weight of protecting his mother's fragile ego through manufactured distress. Chloe spoke her mind directly instead of calculating how her words might be used against family members. Tyler celebrated his achievements without guilt or apology. Derek watched his children with visible relief. "They're just kids again," he told me as we stood by the grill. For months they felt responsible for managing their mother's emotional stability. Now they get to just be 11 and 9 years old. "How's Amanda doing with the therapy?" "Better. She's starting to acknowledge the manipulation patterns, which is progress. The therapist says narcissistic behavior can improve with intensive work, but it takes years. Brandon and Chloe will be adults before she's fully healthy, if ever." "Do they want to see her?" "Supervised visits twice a month. They love her, but they're not willing to go back to walking on eggshells around her emotional needs. The therapist supports their boundaries." Patricia approached carrying a carefully wrapped package, her movements more tentative than in the past, but her smile genuine. "Tyler, this is from me, but it comes with an apology." Tyler hugged his grandmother warmly before opening the gift. Inside was a photo album titled "Tyler's First 12 Years a Celebration," filled with pictures from every birthday, holiday, and achievement since his birth. "I should have been celebrating you all along instead of worrying about other people's jealousy," Patricia said. "This album is my promise that I'll never let anyone make you feel guilty for being loved again." "Thank you, Grandma. But you don't have to keep apologizing. I know you were confused." "How did I raise such a wise grandson?" Tyler glanced at me with a grin. "I had a good teacher." The afternoon progressed with games, conversations, and the easy intimacy of people who'd chosen each other rather than simply inherited family obligations. Lisa helped Tyler organize a scavenger hunt for the younger kids. Marcus and Derek discussed Little League coaching strategies. Karen and Patricia worked together in the kitchen, their previous antagonism replaced by shared concern for Tyler's well-being. Uncle Robert pulled me aside during the festivities. "Justin, I need to ask your forgiveness for something specific. When Amanda showed us those recordings of the children being upset, I never thought to question whether they were genuine. I should have known those kids well enough to recognize coached responses. Robert, we all missed the manipulation. Amanda's very skilled at what she does. But I'm Tyler's great uncle. I should have protected him instead of participating in his emotional abuse. I failed in my responsibility to that boy." "You're here now. You chose truth when it mattered. That's what Tyler will remember." As evening approached and guests began gathering their belongings, Tyler stood on a chair to address his party. "I want to thank everyone for coming to my birthday. Last year I didn't get to have a party because some people thought my happiness made other people sad. But I learned something important. Real family wants you to be happy. Real family celebrates with you instead of making you feel guilty for being loved." He paused, looking around at the faces of people who'd chosen to support him. "I also learned that sometimes you have to walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're family. And sometimes those people figure out they were wrong and come back to love you the right way. Both things are okay." Brandon raised his hand. "Tyler, can I say something?" "Sure." "Chloe and I want everyone to know that we were never really jealous of Tyler's parties. Mom made us pretend to be sad, but we actually loved seeing Tyler get nice things. We wanted parties like his, not instead of his. And now we get our own special celebrations without anyone feeling bad," Chloe added. "Dad's planning a princess theme party for my birthday next month, and Tyler's helping with decorations. The honesty and simplicity of their statements brought tears to several adult eyes. These children had been forced to weaponize their emotions against someone they loved, and their recovery of authentic feelings represented hope for the entire family's healing. As cleanup began, Tyler found me arranging leftover cake in containers for guests to take home. "Dad, this was the best birthday I've ever had." Even better than the superhero party we planned last year. Way better, because everyone here actually wants to be here. Nobody's pretending to be happy or pretending to be sad. Everyone's just being real. Derek approached with Brandon and Chloe as they prepared to head home. "Tyler, the kids want to ask you something." Brandon stepped forward with the seriousness of someone making an important announcement. "Tyler, we want you to be our best cousin forever. Not just regular cousins, but best cousins who tell each other the truth and protect each other from people who want to use us to hurt other people." "I accept," Tyler replied solemnly, shaking both their hands like they'd just negotiated a treaty. Patricia was the last to leave, lingering in the doorway, as if reluctant to end the evening. "Justin, I know I can never undo the damage I allowed Amanda to do to Tyler. But I want you to know that watching him today, seeing his confidence and joy, I understand now what real love looks like. Mom, Tyler's resilient. Kids heal faster than adults when they're in a safe environment. Still, I wasted a year of his childhood worrying about the wrong things. A year I can never get back. But you have all the years ahead of us. That's what matters now." After everyone had gone and Tyler had fallen asleep surrounded by new gifts and genuine love, I sat on Marcus's back patio reflecting on the journey that had brought us to this moment of peace. The decision to leave California had been the hardest choice of my life, requiring me to abandon everything familiar to protect my son from systematic emotional abuse. But it had also been the most necessary choice, creating space for truth to emerge and healing to begin. Amanda's manipulation had succeeded in the short term, turning family members against each other through manufactured crises and false evidence. But her overreach in demanding total compliance had ultimately exposed the toxicity of the system she'd created. Tyler's recovery had been remarkable, but not miraculous. It had required consistent safety, honest communication, and the presence of adults who prioritized his well-being over their own comfort. Most importantly, it had required distance from people who viewed his happiness as a threat to their own emotional stability. The broader family's healing would take longer. Patricia was learning to recognize manipulation tactics and resist emotional pressure. Derek was rebuilding his children's ability to express authentic feelings. Uncle Robert and Aunt Sarah were examining their own tendencies to avoid conflict by accepting superficial explanations. Even Amanda, through intensive therapy, was beginning to understand how her fear of abandonment had driven her to control everyone around her. Her recovery remained uncertain, but the possibility of eventual redemption offered hope for Brandon and Chloe's future relationship with their mother. Lisa joined me on the patio, carrying 2 cups of coffee and settling into the chair beside mine. "How are you feeling about everything?" she asked. "Grateful, relieved, proud of Tyler for handling everything with such grace. He's an amazing kid. But he's amazing because of how you've raised him. You protected him when it mattered most." "I almost didn't. I almost stayed and tried to fix things." "But you didn't. You chose his well-being over family expectations. That takes incredible courage." As we sat in comfortable silence, I thought about the lessons Tyler had learned through this experience. He discovered that love shouldn't require him to diminish his own light to make others comfortable. He'd learned that family loyalty is meaningless without family honesty. He'd experienced the difference between people who celebrate your joy and people who resent it. Most importantly, he'd learned that walking away from toxicity isn't abandonment, it's self-preservation. And sometimes creating that distance is the only way to save not just yourself, but the people being used as weapons against you. The phone buzzed with a text message from Tyler's teacher. Tyler's essay about family challenges won the school writing contest. He wrote about forgiveness boundaries and the difference between real love and manipulative control. Thought you'd want to know. I smiled, thinking about my 12-year-old son who developed wisdom that many adults never achieve. Tomorrow, he'd wake up in a home where his happiness was celebrated rather than monitored. He'd attend a school where his achievements were applauded without calculation of their impact on others. He'd spend time with cousins who loved him authentically rather than conditionally. The superhero-fueled birthday party we'd planned but never had in California seemed unimportant now. What mattered was this: Tyler knew he was loved without conditions, protected without hesitation, and valued for exactly who he was rather than who others needed him to be. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the courage to walk away from people who hurt them even when those people are family. Sometimes protecting love requires choosing distance. Sometimes the family that matters most is the one you create through choice rather than the one you inherit through obligation. Tyler had learned these truths at 11 years old, not through lectures or explanations, but through experience. He'd watched his father choose his well-being over family pressure. He'd seen real love in action, and he'd never again accept counterfeit versions. That knowledge would serve him well in every relationship he'd form for the rest of his life. As midnight approached, marking the official end of Tyler's 12th birthday, I felt a sense of completion that had been missing from our lives for longer than I'd realized. We'd walked through fire and emerged not unscathed, but stronger and clearer about what truly mattered. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new celebrations. But tonight, sitting on this patio in Phoenix, surrounded by people who'd chosen to love us authentically, I knew we'd found our way home. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting someone you love? Sometimes the people closest to us can create the most toxic environments, and recognizing the truth takes incredible courage. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your own experiences with family dynamics and the moment you realized love shouldn't require you to diminish your own happiness. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button. If Tyler's journey touched your heart, subscribe for more stories about finding strength in difficult family situations, and share this with anyone who might need to hear that choosing their well-being isn't selfish. It's necessary. Thank you for joining Tyler and me on this journey. And remember that real family celebrates your joy instead of resenting it. Here's to all the brave parents and children who choose authentic love over comfortable lies, and to the healing that becomes possible when we finally have the courage to walk away from what hurts us toward what honors our worth.